Hi everyone, it's Thursday night, so it's time to sew. I hope everyone is doing well. Just to recap what we've done so far is that, let's see, we've made the t-shirt. Last week we did the, mine just went blank, what's this called? The neckline, there we go. It's been a long week. And I have finished it, and it's a Chanel neckline. And if you remember, what we did was we sewed it right sides together with approximately a 1/2 inch seam, and then we folded it over, and you can watch the video from last week. And what I didn't do was the cover stitch, and what I did was I simply put one needle into the ditch right here, and the other needle went over. I did it at first. Remember, before I went to the cover stitch machine, you'll see that white stuff there. That's going to come off because I used wash away thread, and therefore I did to catch it, mostly because it made it easier to handle. And then once I hit it with a wet towel, in fact, it's already tearing up here. So it's already, just from the moisture from the air, it's already starting to fall apart. See, I got a lot of it out, and it's just disintegrated. And on the back you'll see the finishing of the cover stitch, so that's done. Then the next thing I did is I went ahead and tried it on, and it's fitting like I like it. So now I'm ready to sew the side seams. Now you can use the combination stitch to sew your side seams. Now if you're just fitting it, I recommend you do a basting stitch on your sewing machine and set your stitch length at about 4 to try it on to make sure it's okay. Then you have a choice. You can either run it on your serger with a 4 thread, or a 5 thread with a just a plain serge in order to finish the edges so that you have a nice thin seam like this. Okay, so after I did the neckline, I think I showed you last week how we sewed the sleeves on. And I did sew my sleeves first with a straight stitch just to make sure everything was good. And also, I don't have to anymore, but I wanted it to be exactly 1/2 inch, so I got everything stitched just right. Everything looked good. Then I took it to a 4 thread overlock stitch to finish it off. Now I could do my side seams with a 4 thread overlock stitch as well. However, I don't like my side seams to be overlocked, because when you sew these two edges together right up underneath where the sleeves go, where there's the sleeve, the side seam and the sleeve, that's a lot of bulk right there. And I don't like it. It feels funny to me, and it's my own weirdness. I prefer to have my seams pressed open. I like a conventional seam. On a sewing machine, that can be an issue because of the fact that when you sew it on a sewing machine, it's a regular sewing machine doesn't have any give to it. So I like using my chain stitch on my serger, and I'm going to set that up now. And what I did was I just did a 3 thread overlock edging. See right here, a 3 thread overlock edging on the side seams, because when I'm done, I like to have my seams open. Mostly because, remember I told you that you either put your sleeves on while it's in the round, you know, with the side seams already done, or put your sleeves on when you only have the shoulder seam going, and it gives you a flat surface, and they're easier to install. By all means, yes, they are easier to install. I like my sleeves sewn in the round when it's a woven, mostly because because this seam, when you do it this way, is the dominant seam. So most of your pressures are going to come from pulling up and down and moving your arm, and that can be uncomfortable, especially with a woven. And on a woven, I like the dominant seam, which is the one that's the last one, to go underneath of the arms, and that just is a more comfortable feeling for me. Everybody's different. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm not necessarily going to pin it. I'm going to start from the bottom to the top. You want to make sure that everything's just right. I'm going to pin my seams together right here, like that. Because see, it leaves there's a lot of bulk. I've got 4 1, 2, 3, 4 layers of fabric right there. And that's what I do. So if I sew to seam, that's going to be all that bulk right there. I don't like that. So I'm going to, after I do this, I'm going to press it open. So anyway, what I need to do is set up my machine for the chain stitch. So it's set up right now for a 3-thread overlock, and I need to switch it to a chain stitch. So I'm going to take all the threads out, pull them out. I'm going to move the needle. Okay, and my needle is right now in the overlock 2 position. I need it to be in, let's see, I'm going to be doing a chain stitch. So I need a 1/2 inch seam. This is 5. Okay, so I'm going to put it in the C2 or chain 2 position if you have a Babylock, which is my middle needle position, because I still want to maintain a 1/2 inch seam. Okay, loosen these other screws. You want to check to make sure you see the top of the needle against the ball that's inside the needle clamp. Okay, so that's, just double check that I got that up there really good. Tighten it a lot. Alrighty, and I'm going to remove the table and remove the cutting guard and put the table in. And notice it won't close. That's because I haven't disabled my upper looper because it's in the way. So I'm going to turn this, and now it's locked into position, and I can lock that out. I'm also going to lower my blade. So my blade's right here, or a little bit lower, you can see. Okay, so now that's that into position. I'm going to open that door for a minute and open this one. And I'm going to lock my threading tubes, and on this machine there's a button over here that I push while I turn the hand wheel. On the newer models, it's a lever that says threading, so you push it to threading. Otherwise, it's the same. Okay, so I'm going to thread this in here. There is a little guide right here. I'm just going to put it into the guide. On the new Triumph, you just simply sort of put it over top of the bar. This one has to go behind and up and around. There's a dial on this side, and where is that thread caught? Somewhere. Here we go. Ah. There we go. There's a guide right here. So it goes in the guide. It goes behind. There's a little metal flange back here, and then there's up over top of the dial. I've got this set to C for chain. I'm just going to put that in there. And newer models, you just simply push a button. It's got a motorized pump. This one has a hand pump. So there's a little basket right here. So see there, the thread came through, so I'm going to cut it by the side and just shut the door. Okay, I'm going to release my threading tubes. Now I'm ready for the needles. And I'm just going to use one needle for now. Okay, and it does not matter which threading path I use. There's 3 slots up here. This on the chain stitch and the cover stitch. These are manual tensions, so one dial affects all 3 positions, so it really does not matter what slot you put it in. Okay, and then it goes around here, and then up and over the take-up lever, so it's from left to right as versus a sewing machine, which threads right to left. Okay, put that in here. And I like my threads. You don't have to put your threads underneath unless you are me, because that drives me crazy not to have my threads underneath. Okay. Alright, my setting here is I'm leaving that on 4. And then I'm going to set this there on this left side here. is a dial that says chain or cover, and I want the chain stitch. So I put it on chain. I want my stitch length at about 2.5. And differential feed should be on neutral, but we are going to run a test stitch first. Always run a test stitch. Okay, so 2, and let's see. I'm mostly checking for my differential feed. So I'm never exactly sure how it's going to act, and let's see. It actually is a good stitch. It's a little on the tight side right here. So that's a little on the tight side. And it's not going to pop. It is stretching, but I'm going to loosen that a little bit. On the chain stitch, the cover stitch tensions, you can change the tensioning a little bit. I like to start at the bottom and work at the top. I don't think it matters which way you start, as long as you're consistent on both sides. So notice if it curls too much, and this one's not doing too bad. If it curls too much, you know what I recommend? Going to the ironing board and with a glue stick and gluing them together. Okay, and I'm going to just put those seams together. Notice I have already serged them. So I need 1/2 inch. Now with this foot, right here, remember I said when you're serging, you have to feel the position of where your seams should be with the chain and cover, with the chain stitch. If I am using the C1 position, which is that leftmost needle, then if you're using this right edge of the foot as your guide, that is 5/8 of an inch. If I am using the center needle, it is 4, because they're about 1/8 of an inch apart. So this is 1/2 inch, and this is 3/8. So I am using the right edge of my foot, which I don't have it there, as my guide. And that way it's easier to tell how big those seams are actually. There we go. And then let your needle be like your third hand. Let it. So what I'm doing is I'm leaving the needle in the down position, and I can take the rest of the seam up to the sleeve arm's eye, and now I can put it together. And now I can be accurate that far. This is okay. Now I'm getting ready to go over top of that thick seam. So I just match up the edge of the sleeve. It wants to drag. Nope, that wasn't a pin. I'm not sure what it made noise for. And now that looks good. See, the seam looks good. And so I would go to the iron and press it open, and I'll do that in a little bit. Let me go ahead and get the other one. So once again, put my sleeves, arms, eyes together, and when you press your sleeve, you press the seams towards the bottom of the sleeve, or not towards the neckline. Okay, and same thing down here. going to do the seam, or the hems. So what I'm going to do before I leave here is I'm going to change this over to a cover stitch. And to do that, I just need to add one more needle. You have to decide what type of cover stitch you want. You want either a wide cover stitch or a narrow. I prefer, on really slinky fabric like this, I prefer to have the narrow cover stitch, because this fabric has a tendency to tunnel, especially with that wide cover stitch. So I'm going to go to a narrow, and so I can easily put in another needle. And I will put in another thread into, I'll probably use that through this first slot. And it just goes in whatever needle I happen to put it in, which is going to be in this C3 position. There we go, and thread my needle. Okay, and I'm going to put, now the only thing I have to change is on this side over here, I'm changing this to cover stitch. And then I'm going to test stitch first, make sure it's good. And I'm going to lengthen that stitch length just a little bit. Okay, not good. So, see, the stitches are kind of ravelly, they're loosey-goosey like that. 9 times out of 10, the reason is because these threads are not full. Aha, that thread was not fully seated correctly. So therefore I got loosey-goosey tensions. It wasn't in there. Alright, let's try this again. Now it's good. That was the problem, is that the threads are sitting on the top, are just laying over the top. See, if they're just laying over the top and the tension discs are closed when you thread it, the thread never gets inside the disc. Because on chain and cover stitch, it is conventional tensioning. Overlocking, it is not. Okay, now we're going to go to the ironing board. Okay, so I'm going to press the seam open first. And I'm probably going to use steam because I like steam, but just so that it stays nice. So, if it's one that imprints pretty badly, then you could use something like this pressing stick, which is like this. You could place it underneath. And that way it would keep it from making this imprint on the front of the fabric. So yes, this is warm, but this presses it open really sharp. You could use a spritzer and a press cloth as well. Okay, but now I'm getting a nice flat seam, and it's not imprinting on the front at all. Okay. I especially want to put a little pressure at where the seams intersect. Okay. Does not want to stay. It won't stay, and it's going to give me grief. So this way I can press my seams open, hit it with a little bit of this glue. Remember, it's going to completely wash out. Okay. Run that flat. And see, now it's stuck. It's not going to shift on you or twist or turn. It's going to, so very nicely. Okay, again here, I am just bouncing it mostly, putting very little of the glue on there. There's hardly any there. And I'm just holding it into place. And see, it's got a little curve there. So that's going to help ease in the curve. Make sure I'll ease it with my fingers. And take the iron. Heat set it into place. Okay. Over here, bounce it a little more. I've done so many of these, I can pretty much eyeball the hem, but you might want to measure it, but it takes more time. Okay, and put the cap on, and now we will go back to the machine. And see, it's hemmed really nice. There it is, really nice. Looks nice from the front, and it's nice and even. At this point, you could even try it on and see if you like the length before you even sewed it, but I've already done that, so, and it fits. It's good. Okay, let's go back to the machine. All right, I know this stitch works. Now what I want to do is I want to sew the beginning of the seam so it doesn't have, I want you to be able to tell, not be able to tell where I started and where I stopped with this cover stitch. So that's why I have the open toe foot on here. So put that on. If you don't have an open toe foot, sometimes it helps to have a clear foot. If you don't have that, all of machines will have some kind of needle indicator on the front. On this one you can see these little red lines. If all you have is a standard foot like this, you need to see it right there. See these little notches? That's right in front of the needle, so you can also use that as a guide. Okay, so what I want to do is pull my threads straight. I usually will take this and sweep out those threads and separate them. There, I want to see 3 threads. So I have 3 loose threads and I can get underneath of them, and that's what I care about. Okay, I'm going to do the sleeve because I'll be able to show this easier on a sleeve because we don't have to go around so far. For the sleeve, I'm going to turn my blouse inside out just to make it easier to stitch. I'm going to start stitching under the arm. Right here. Just want to straighten this out. I'm going to raise that presser foot under here and position everything. Okay, I'm going, and then I do decide where you want everything to go. I'm going to use, and I'm going to pull these threads so they don't cause trouble. I don't want them underneath. I want them on top where I can see them. Or at least the 2 needle ones. Okay. And my other there. I'm going to be using, I'm using the C2 and the C3 position. So I have about a little more than a ½ inch here. So I'm going to use this edge of the foot, which is a ½ inch away from this needle, the edge of the foot is 1/2 inch away from that needle. I've got about a little more than 1/2 inch hem right there. But that gives me a nice straight line to keep things. And I have the edge of the foot I have marked here on the plate. And I want to start stitching. I'm going to hold on to the thread so they don't go dig underneath. Come here. There we go. Okay, and keep them out of the way. And start stitching. Sometimes you have to help it underneath of the arms on it, all that thickness. Here we go. Now just worried about 2 inches at a time. I'm not worried about what's going on in the other part. And I'm catching, yes I am catching this. So you can see I'm catching it really well. Okay. See, it's just catching just nicely. It's rippling a little bit, so I'll put the differential feed up just a little bit. Okay. Okay. When I see the beginning threads, okay, I want to cut them. Cut them away. Otherwise you'll confuse them with the ending threads. Okay, I can now see the 2 sets of threads. So as I approach, I'm first of all making sure that they are going up underneath this position and this position. Okay, and now I can see the threads right there. And if I really want to be careful, I can do this and hand walk it to where they match up exactly. And I'm just going to simply overstitch by about overlap one on top of the other for about 1/2 inch. And I'm going to raise that needle to its highest position, raise the presser foot, pull those threads so that you can get that stitch out, and hand walk it out until you get free flowing thread. And there it is. Okay? Now, here's my 2 top threads. Here is where they join. You can't see it. It looks like one right there. They're overlapped right here. You can't tell. I see the 2 threads on the top, and I have one on the bottom. Here's the one on the bottom. So sometimes I can see a loop and pull it through. 1, 2, still one up here. So what I want to do is pull these to the back. Sometimes you can find the loops, and I did. The loops are, you've got those freestanding loops on the back. They're gone, and see, now they're gone. Oops, there's still a thread hanging out. There we go. There we go. See, you cannot tell. I mean, if you really stick your face an inch away from it, you can see where one thread ends. Then you have the ones on the back. And then you're going to tie them into a knot. Tie a knot. Strands are a little long. There, just tied it into a nice tight knot. I just need a big-eyed needle. Here's one right here. Put the ends in. Okay. And then I'm going to weave these in between the layers. That's underneath and inside the stitching. Pull it about a 1/2 inch. Clip it. It's done. And you end up with a really pretty sleeve. Here's the sleeve. It's really nice and neat. Okay. And it's, well, as soon as I do the other cover stitching on the other sleeve and the hem, it's ready to wear. And then everything looks really neat on the inside and on the outside of it. Everything is nice and neat. Very professional looking. I love the sleeve, the way the sleeve looks. Now, if it stuck out any, I managed to catch it right at the edge. Let me check the inside. Hey, I lucked out. This has never happened before. I don't have to do any trimming. I actually caught it just right because I made a 1/2 inch hem and I used that needle right at the center needle at the 1/2 inch point, so I don't have any trimming to do. If I had anything sticking out, then I would just simply take my scissor and trim it away. And it's done. And it's ready to wear. And it will be nice and comfortable, which is important to me. Okay, well, you can always send the questions to me. You can always send me questions on email, and my email address is waltzquilt, WALTZQUILT, @yahoo.com, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. If you're having problems with fitting and you need me to see what you're doing, we can arrange a Zoom class to where I can see what what the problem that you have, and you can see what I have for a solution, and we can do that as well. Again, just arrange that by sending me an email at waltzquilt@yahoo.com, and I'll be happy to give you help. Stay happy, stay healthy, have a wonderful Christmas if I don't see you. And I love you guys. Bye.